Good afternoon, everyone. A little bit of good news. It has been announced today that many lenders are planning significant rate cuts over the next few weeks and months. This follows a statement by Andrew Bailey, who I'm not very keen on, indicating that if the rate goes up at the next meeting by an anticipated 0.25%, it will probably be the last. Swap rates have been falling. We'll see what happens when the next inflation figures are released in the next week or two. And obviously it's not just the CPI figures, it is also where the core inflation is, where salaries are. But in that regard, it's looking quite promising. So with the exception of any unforeseen catastrophe, we should be seeing rates, fixed rates, come down over the next few weeks, which will be a very welcome relief to many people. As you are aware, finally, the industry has begun to concede that property prices have been falling after lying to everybody for the past year. But what really riles me is that it is now exactly 1 year since I began to say, if you are a first-time buyer and you are buying a new property with a small deposit of 15% or less, do not buy now, because you face the risk of being trapped in negative equity for years. And yet the industry continued to take advantage of the lag of up to a year by the land registry of reporting sold property prices to mislead people that it was temporary, it was a blip, it was this, it was that, anything but the truth. And as a result of that, I am sure throughout the country there are thousands of first-time buyers who have bought a property and possibly paid too much on the strength of premeditated misinformation. And many of those people will now be trapped in negative equity for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years, and that is unforgivable. That's the one thing I have been ranting about constantly, because I did not want to see young people suffer the same fate that many of us suffered who had bought a property before Black Wednesday 30 years ago. It seems like yesterday to me, because that had a profound effect on myself when my mortgage went from almost tripled, whatever it was, overnight. And the consequences of that affected me in the years when I should have been enjoying myself, and I'm sure I wasn't alone. And that's the reason I didn't want to see this happen to many young people. And if you have bought, especially if you bought a new property with a deposit of 15% or less in the last year, then I'm sorry to say that for the vast majority of you, you are now, or very soon you will be, in negative equity for the foreseeable future. And that should not have happened. If there were more honesty, then this would not have happened to young people. People moving upwards would have been no worse off, in some cases better off if they negotiated cleverly. The only losers would have been perhaps people at the very top of the chain, or people who are downsizing because proportionally their property may have fallen a little bit more than the one they would be buying. But at least it would have been honest, and at least people would have known exactly what they were doing. That should really be the focus of the property industry, rather than just lying, led sadly by the portals such as Rightmove, such as Zoopla, because once the market begins to slow down, then agents begin to ditch one or the other, and all they're concerned is about their subscriptions and their horrendous revenues. Keep in mind, last year, Rightmove made a profit of £240 million, one of the most profitable companies in the UK, and it contributed just about zero to the property market, to homelessness, to good causes. It is basically an online leech, because if Rightmove were not there, it would not make a single shred of difference to the sale of properties. However, with it being there, it is simply an obstacle to smaller individual agents from setting up, because more often than not, they can't afford the extortionate fees of Rightmove, so established agents support Rightmove to keep a barrier to prevent competition. A classic case of, I'm all right, Jack, I'll pull the ladder up. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Bye bye for now.